here's something to ponder, okay? I don't know if this is gonna stir up negative comments, or people are gonna think I'm being contentious or whatever. But sometimes you got to state your opinion about stuff, right? Here's something I have an opinion about, and you can take it or leave it. If you have a different opinion, that's fine. I have, as I've gotten older, I've tried to leverage rational thinking as much as possible. I'm a touchy-feely person a lot of the time. Heck, I'm an artist, right? But at the same time, you gotta be rational about things. So here's something that I've been thinking about, and this came up when I was listening to the pouring down rain last night. I should have videoed some of it. There's actually rivers running through the street. It was really a downpour. And now today it's kind of muggy and warm. And I'll bet the snow is melting again in the mountains. That's just what it does around here. Snow builds up, it warms up a little bit, it melts. That's what creates the rivers and everything around here, and why it's such a green and beautiful place. Well, one of the things I was very glad about is that I did not have a hole in the roof of my van. Many people have tried to tell me, let me let the airplane take off first. Okay, a lot of seaplanes take off of this lake. People in the van community are like any group of people. What happens is somebody does something, they put it out there, a bunch of people copy it, and then everybody starts thinking that's the way it has to be, right? Because a multitude of people start doing something a certain way, therefore that must be the way to do it. And if you don't do it, you're just some kind of weirdo. Now, the thing I have in mind right now is the use of the fantastic fan vent for ventilation inside of a van. There's nothing wrong with it. It works great. They do work. I'm not going to argue that point. But I've heard so many people tell me and try to convince me that, boy, buddy, you got to absolutely have a roof vent in your van or you're going to die. Well, I've been alive in my van, alive and well, for 2 years. I have no roof vent in my van. I breathe fine most of the time. I can open the back door if I need a little ventilation, some extra oxygen. There's plenty of oxygen or air leaks to get enough fresh air. I'm not going to suffocate in that van. I admit on hot days it gets kind of uncomfortable, but there's ways I've dealt with that. The bottom line is I've held off with the whole idea of cutting a hole in the roof of my van because it's just something that's against my grain. Living in the Pacific Northwest, when it rains like it did last night, you do not want to have a hole in the roof of your living space. That's the whole reason for a roof, is to keep the rain off and to protect you from the elements. Now, I hope I don't sound like I'm belittling anybody by saying this. Again, putting a roof vent is a way to solve the problem of ventilation, to exhaust air out of the van. But you got to have some place to pull the air in too. If you're going to force air out, you got to pull it in. If you're going to force air in, well, it's going to just, you know, be a turbulent little vortex in there unless you have a place for it to go out. So, you know, there's different ways of approaching the problem. There's not just one solution to it. And sometimes, you know, I have found over the years that if I just hold off on the, well, what I'm talking about here is a fallacy in reasoning that is sometimes referred to as the democratic fallacy. And I'm not poking at any political party here. I'm just saying there's a fallacy in reasoning sometimes that says that if a majority or a multitude of people are doing something, then that means it's true, or that it's the way everybody should do something. And I'm just saying that it's not necessarily true, and it's not the way everybody should do something just because the multitude is saying so. That being said, if you want to apply wisdom, if a multitude is doing something, you might want to look into it, because sometimes there is a good reason to do it. And sometimes the multitude is doing it because that is the best way to do it, okay? That's a possibility. You can't overlook the possibility of that. However, just because a multitude is doing something a certain way does not automatically mean that's the way you have to do it. I mean, living in a box van, I think I've spent some time learning how to think inside the box. Have a good one.